welcome to our third webinar for New Energy Nexus, just finishing out the year with empowering Asia's green workforce. We're really excited today to be partnering with AVPN, one of Asia's leading social venture capital network, for this presentation. We also have a fantastic cast of characters across our Southeast Asia colleagues and markets to be supporting this presentation today to share their stories with you. Today, we're going to talk about empowering Asia's green workforce. What are the skills needed for an inclusive energy transition? Next slide, please. Next slide. Great. So I'm Andrew Chang, Chief Growth Officer for New Energy Nexus. Oh, can we go back? Yeah, no worries. Really excited to be welcoming you guys today. Just a quick background on myself. I've been with New Energy Nexus for 8 years now. I'm originally from the Bay Area. My background's been in solar, and I've had the pleasure of working with New Energy Nexus for 8 years now to really support the build out of a lot of the work in Asia, particularly in China and in Southeast Asia. I'm currently based in Shanghai right now and have had the pleasure of working across chapters and what we call markets that matter here, as you see on the map. So just about New Energy Nexus, we are one of the leading international organizations that are supporting clean energy and climate entrepreneurs with funds, accelerators, and networks. To date, we've supported over 1,000 startups, and we've had impact over 14 regions, as you can see here. Our origin story really started in California, but we have now expanded to what we call markets that matter. So areas where we believe we can have the most additionality when it comes to energy transition. So you see a large concentration in Thailand, China, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Pakistan, India. Through our work, we've been also able to create more than 8,000 jobs and facilitated and invested $52 million in catalytic capital. Overall, we've been able to run 42 program cohorts all around the world. Next slide. So today's discussion is really going to be about what is going to be required for this energy transition. There's a lot of conversation about AI, the new hottest technology, but really it's about the people and the agents of change that are pushing this energy transition. We're at a point in the energy transition where cost of solar and cost of batteries have decreased significantly, over 85% over the past decade. And now it's really going to be about deployment, creative financing, and training the workforce that's prepared to work with the energy transition. IRENA has projected 38 million green jobs to be created by 2030 across solar, wind, energy efficiency, and EVs. And the IEA, International Energy Agency, has accounted for 60% of global energy employment growth in recent years. So totally outpacing all the fossil fuel jobs that have been created. Clean energy sits at the top. Some of the regional insights that we've been seeing is that Asia Pacific is already leading in solar manufacturing. Thanks to China, we've been able to get cost of solar down to less than $1 a watt. And what we really need is the skilled workers to expand those installations across the region, from maintenance to modernization to EV infrastructure. The economic opportunity in Southeast Asia alone is 150 billion US dollars. And so this is one anecdote I'd like to share. In Australia, we have a population of 27 million people with over 8,000 registered solar installation companies. However, its neighbor in Indonesia, 280 million population, with 10 times the population, but less than 300 solar companies. So what does that tell you there? That there's still a major skills gap and workforce gap when it comes to solar deployment and that what's needed for the energy transition. Next slide. So New Energy Nexus, our mission and objective is to ensure that we are upskilling the existing workforce. We're preparing youth for high quality jobs in clean energy, energy efficiency, and e-mobility sectors in Southeast Asia. Our three objectives are this. Number one, we want to increase the number of clean energy professionals in the Global South. That means increasing the number of solar efficiency businesses, which then comes the jobs that are created with it. And we also want to support underserved communities. Two, we want to leverage existing technology and partnerships to improve the professionalism and scale. This comes from government and private sector partners, all the way to digital platforms, digital training tools, and online marketplaces. Three, we want to create an ecosystem of collaboration with commercial partners to support growth. So as I talked about before, the creative commercial financing that's needed in these regions, and to be able to have active pipeline building. Next slide. And this is how we're going to do it. We have a thematic vertical at New Energy Nexus called New Energy Skills. It is a cross-cutting thematic that touches upon various components of the workforce development, technical training to entrepreneurship to building career pathways. So I'll start with technical training. We have programs all across Southeast Asia, and you'll hear from some of our colleagues today about the hands-on technical assistance programs for solar installation training. We also have many programs that are fostering entrepreneurship. So this is really getting down to developing your value proposition, traction in the market, and business model in these specific regions. And number three, building career pathways. This is really for earlier stage when it comes to universities, working with universities to build in climate education into the curriculum. So it comes through internships, it comes through university collaboration. So we're really trying to have additionality at every part of the value creation stream when it comes to workforce development. So with that, I'm really excited to move on to the next speaker here, Patrick Yeung, who is with AVPN, who's, as I mentioned before, one of the leading social capital networks in Asia. And we're excited to be partnering with him on this project. Patrick, over to you. Patrick, you're muted.
Thanks. Yeah,
Perfect.
so I was just trying to share my screen. Do you see it now? Yeah, I suppose you do. And
not
yeah,
yet,
thanks.
Patrick. Still loading. It's still loading for me.
I see it.
Okay,
We
I
see
see it
it.
now.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks Andrew for the introduction, and also thanks New Energy Nexus for inviting us to join this webinar. So yeah, New Energy Nexus is also like one of our like long-term partner and also a member as well. So we're very glad that like we partnered together in this webinar, and also for further collaboration as well. So today, like I'm going to introduce about AVPN, and also about our new initiative called the ASCENT, which is the Asia's Clean Energy Transition Initiative. First, briefly about AVPN. So we are actually a large network of different types of social investors in Asia. Across the world, we have over 600 members, from, of course, our local philanthropies and different types of investors in Asia, but also some of the international ones from Europe, from Australasia, from the US as well, etc. Yeah, so in this social investor network, we try to coordinate across them, the different types of them, so they can collaborate together in certain area, and also exchange information, exchange insights, so we can build a stronger social investor community. And in AVPN, actually, we focus on four main thematic areas, from climate to gender to health and youth. And then just a glance about our types of members. So we have different foundations, family offices, corporates, government-related agencies or funders, and then also impact funds and different intermediaries. So we have a wide spectrum of different types of social investors. So we try to integrate the different types of power, different focuses to build a stronger momentum on the different topics. But of course, like today, we talk more about the just energy transition and how we can leverage more workers' power. So I introduced a little bit about the ASCENT initiative that we we partner with BCG and some others. So recently in September, we launched a study report during the New York Climate Week, focusing on people-centric energy transition. So here are some like abstract information about it. So we try to highlight the importance of energy transition in the Asia Pacific, that people are suffering from the disasters or from the climate change. But and also the economic loss is also very severe. But on the other hand, there is also a huge opportunity for us to revitalize our economy by doing the right sustainability transition, including a just energy transition. But realistically, we also see that like less than 1% of the current spending on climate is actually on the people-centric agenda. So we need to boost this number up. And also like at COP29, we also see a backlash by the developing countries that we need much more, like 4 or 5 times more funding in order to support the mitigation and adaptation measures. So it's important that we gather more of these social investors into this space. And then for the just energy transition or the people-centric energy transition that we talk about, we actually identify 4 main groups of people groups, including the workers who are from the fossil fuel industries, or some of the new green energy workers who work in the renewable energy sectors. And then the communities, which are those who are dependent on fossil fuel, or some who are affected by some of the new infrastructures of the renewable energies, and also the consumers and SMEs who are reliant on stable and relatively cheaper energy source. And they may be affected by the energy transition into renewable energy. So we care about these 4 groups. And then, but for today, the topic is more relevant to the first group about worker. So we look forward to some of the introduction by the New Energy Nexus colleagues across Southeast Asia as well. And then for more details about this report that I just mentioned, launched in September, you can scan this QR code or come to our website to find it. And then based on these results of the finding of this publication, we are co-developing this ASCENT initiative as a platform that we join together with many different types of actors, from philanthropies to DFIs, MDBs, governments, industry players, and also private financial institutions, hoping to increase the awareness, clarity, and visibility of the people-centric energy transition, and mobilize more funding to support these initiatives, and then also strengthen the capacity of delivering such projects. So we're bringing together these different players to play different roles in this platform. But for New Energy Nexus, definitely they have been in this space for quite a long time, a lot of experience and knowledge. So they will be particularly supportive to like creating the narrative about people-centric energy transition, and also supportive in like supporting more of the delivery of relevant workforce related initiatives as well. So we look forward to working more with New Energy Nexus in the upcoming platform as well. So if any of the participants here are interested in joining our platform, of course, like today, we only introduced briefly, but if you want to know more or join us, feel free to scan this QR code and fill out a survey in order to get in touch with us. So I'll just stop here. I will share more during the panel discussion as well. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, great. Hi, this is Stanley. I lead partnerships for New Energy Nexus. I'll be moderating the rest of the session today. So thank you, Patrick, for your sharing and for introducing AVPN. New Energy Nexus, we've been members since, I think, 2019 or so. So we've had a long working relationship with you guys. The rest of our panelists will have Brenda talk about our work in the Philippines and share all the great work we're doing in workforce development programs. Then we'll have Romella share about her experience going through one of these programs called the New Energy Academy, which is a solar training online, offline platform. And then we'll call Jerry to talk through New Energy Nexus Thailand and all the work that we're doing there, supporting solar trainings and going into electric mobility. So the format of today will have each of our speakers give about a 5-minute overview with a short couple of slides, and then we'll get into a panel discussion. So with that, over to you, Brenda, to kick it off.
Thanks, Stanley. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. So a little bit of context. So when we started our work in 2019, we've observed several things with regards to the workforce and just the solar industry in general. So most of the training institutions are either concentrated in metro areas or they're run by different private institutions. So without a clear alignment on national standards or work quality, talent is also concentrated in highly urbanized areas. And not to mention, we're also losing a lot of talent to overseas opportunities. And lastly, the workforce, as we see, as my colleagues have mentioned, it's really critical to fulfill the estimated demand of energy transition. So in 2022, we collaborated with 2 global leaders in the solar industry. So we have the Global Sustainable Energy Solutions. They are the leading training provider or solar training center in Australia and have trained over thousands of individuals all over the world in solar installation and design. And also Open Solar, the world's leading solar design software, right? So we collaborated and brought to life the New Energy Academy, which is a digital education platform which we designed to really accelerate the training and qualification of solar professionals. So what I wanted to highlight really here is, 2 key areas of our strategy with this platform. High quality, comprehensive coursework on the theoretical foundations of PV. And this is very important because for developing markets, for example, in a country like the Philippines, there will be a lot of 2 to 3 day seminars on solar installation, but they don't really cover the fundamentals. Why do you need to consider load shedding or what's really the basics of how solar energy works? So when there are complications in these installations, most of the installers who have gotten their knowledge from these 2 to 3 day seminars, they don't know why, right? So this is very, very important and a very crucial and critical element of the platform. So it's very comprehensive, multiple courses. It has assessments for every course, quizzes. You don't move to the next course if you don't get 100% on your quiz. So you keep taking it, right? And we've really perfected that. And aside from you don't get this in normal seminars, these fundamentals, they're also not covered even in engineering schools. So they're not embedded in the curriculum. So if you're really a newbie, if you're not from the industry, it's very difficult to really understand this if you're just trying to learn on your own. And the second critical part is the practical hands-on. And it's conducted by local training centers and actual solar practitioners. So they get to actually apply the theories and simulate the solar installation journey. These are actual people who does solar installations within their area. So they give very practical approaches and even things such as, where do you source these kinds of equipment? Where do you source these kinds of partners, right? So it's a very tailor-fit, very hands-on approach to our learners. On our next slide is a little glimpse of where our training partners are. Those are just some of the photos, but we are up to 12 at this point, and we're adding so we can cover more areas in the Philippines. But I really wanted to highlight here is also how we're different in comparison to other initiatives. One is that individuals pay for the training. They invest in acquiring these skills because they know that it will return 100-fold once they secure a career in the industry. It's highly comprehensive, right? So we collaborated with partners so that it aligns with international solar standards. It's not only technical skills. So we also have business courses and also employability courses so that you know after you've gotten these skills, if you want to start a solar company, where do you start? How do you register? How do you find companies? How do you find clients? And lastly, each batch is a community of its own, right? So, learners can share with their peers, exchange thoughts. Some of them exchange questions, how to answer the quizzes or how to answer the exam, but it's also fine. And also opportunities. So some of them exchange details. For example, they have an upcoming project or they landed a client and they would need other installers or technicians to join them, and they utilize the group or the community that was formed during the training. I think lastly, what's good to highlight here is how we measure success is really through the outcome. So of course we measure net promoter score, their completion rate and all that. But two very critical things is that they get to set up their own solar companies, because we want solar skills and capacities to expand outside the metro areas. So some of our trainees, some of our graduates have actually expanded and set up their own companies and are starting to sell to clients. And also those that actually utilize their training to champion solar, right? So either they enter the field or enter the solar industry as an electrician, as an engineer, as a solar designer, or even other industries where they get to fully utilize their knowledge of solar. So I think that's a good segue to introduce the next speaker, who is actually one of the examples of the learners that utilized their solar knowledge in their field of work currently. May I ask Romella? Hi, Romella. She is
Hello,
one
Miss
of our
Brenda.
Hi, Romella. So she's one of our graduates from the December 2023 batch, if I'm not mistaken. But she'll tell you more about why she took the NEA courses, what was the experience, and I guess how you're using it in your work right now.
Okay, thank you, Miss Brenda, for the introduction. So a quick recap. A quick introduction. My name is Romella. I am currently working as an electrical design engineer here in Manila in a private construction company. So my NIA journey started at around the last quarter of 2023, when I had this goal of finding a certificate program that I can complete while still finishing my degree in electrical engineering. So the reason for this goal is simply to secure better employment opportunities after I graduated. So during this search, the NIA post on Facebook is I saw it on the Facebook. So the main program itself is a solar installation program, and the program itself is that caught my attention because our professors also encourage us to explore the profession in renewable energy, because they believe that the renewable energy also is the future of energy, and they wanted us to be equipped when this future came, so we can be one of the professionals who will who will be there to who will be there to yes, that's it. And hello. So right. So with that, I am also hooked to really apply for the program, and the flexibility of the course really is what took me what is what took me in. So as I have decided to, to join the application, so there was an online orientation, and I want also to thank Longy for sponsoring my traineeship in NIA. And with that, during the course, I can also attest that the lessons were organized and easy to digest. And as what Miss Brenda said, um, the lessons there are really started from the basics of electricity, and it progresses to the more specific or more technical aspects of the PV systems. And as I can remember, I also remember struggling a bit with the lessons, specifically on ARI matching, because these lessons are not really taught in our undergrad classes and it's not integrated in our curriculum. So the lessons on PV systems really made impact on how we on how we apply it on the 2-day face-to-face training, or the I can say is my favorite part of the training, because we had this hands-on practical training wherein I met a lot of people of different trades, wherein we work together to do testing, commissioning, decommissioning of the PV systems. So we even, as you can see in the picture, we even climbed up on the mock-up roof. We had this solar setup of may it be grid tie or off grid. So the overall training is, I can say, it is complete and very comprehensive. So, and aside that, I also felt safe during the training because we are completed with the complete and proper PPE while working. So I want to commend that. And another thing, after the graduation, I also want to thank Mia, because they offer us to do what's next after the solar installation, because they guided us on what pathways we can pursue afterwards, like the solar design and and the solar operation. So it was a complete training, I can say. So overall, I'm very satisfied, and it really did help me in my excuse me, in my career as the engineer, because as I work with projects here in Manila, I handle clients that they want to future proof their properties. So they want to install solar, and some commercial establishments, they also want to even even pursue or even add an EV charging systems with their systems in their electrical system. So that's it, and thank you, Nia, and that's all.
Great. Thank you so much, Romella, for sharing. Maybe before we head to Jerry, I'll just ask you a couple questions. So you went through both the online training and then the offline training with the technical centers. Which experience was the most significant, or were you able to really visualize yourself in the sector, working into the sector?
So okay. So I think I visualize myself more on the part of the design, because for more I want to pursue the solar design, because currently as I work as an electrical design engineer, it is quite related. So I think I can be more useful in the design part. But I also enjoy the solar installation part, but I think I would pursue more on the solar and on the design. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Romella. Um, Over to you, Jerry. Can you please tell us a little bit about New Energy Nexus Thailand and what we're doing in terms of workforce development there?
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Stan, and great to meet you all. I think in terms of New Energy Nexus Thailand, we did a couple of things, from incubating researcher to create their own startups, to, on the other side of the spectrum, training the future of the workforce for the entrepreneurs, as well as like for the underrepresented community throughout Thailand. What we noticed in Thailand is that I think we are facing similar challenges to the Philippines. Most of the solar courses are concentrated in Bangkok and in major cities. Even so, in Thailand alone, there's only 190 solar companies compared to, for example, like 2,000 in Australia. So I think this is like a huge gap in skill gap. Thailand alone as well, we notice a rising trend of solar. We have like over 3,000 megawatt of solar currently, but that is deemed to grow by fourfold in the next coming years. The problem here is that we are definitely lacking the skilled workforce here. So what we do is that we plan to set up 4 training centers with our partners, whether it's in universities, whether it's with since Thailand is a monopolistic market, we have PEA, which control all the of like the permits. So it's a very difficult challenge for newly emerging companies to come into space and get the permits as well. So that's why we partner with PA in teaching them how to get the permits, how to get regulation, how to meet the standards of Thailand in partnership with Longji and PA and Com. So the goal would be to set up the 4 solar training centers and train this, reiterate this course annually. So right now what we do is we already successfully set up 2 courses, 2 training centers. The first is in Chiang Mai and the second is in Nakhon Chai Si in the center of Bangkok. The rest in the future would be in the south and in the east. So what we do in this training is we do 3 days, very intensive theoretical training, as well as the actual physical and practical training, going up on the roof, getting to know what are the key components in starting the solar system, how do you distinguish between the different kind of system on-grid, off-grid, and integrating that, combining that to the real practical experience in the end, right? So if you move on to the next page. Yeah. I think what distinguishes this program is the first is that we partner with key figures, key authorities that are able to accredit the skills of the technicians or the entrepreneur that entered into our course. In Thailand, it usually takes 6 months to even a year to actually complete it, the regulation, right? Getting the regulation ready and make sure that they get the permits to perform all these tasks. So the goal of this program is first to support the solar growth of solar community outside of Bangkok, making sure that it's less concentrated and we make it affordable as well. So second is to partner and work with PA as well as Longji to disseminate all this knowledge on how to get the permits, how to get the regulations, as well as how to navigate the financial systems. So we teach them on how to do the financial, a bit of the financial planning on the system as well, and proposal making, so that we bring them the cutting edge technology like open solar, so they don't have to spend days to start their own, feasibility studies in that case. And therefore, they can also make it professional and send it to the bank to get the loan so that they can scale as well. And the last one is that we try to target smaller solar EPCs. Anyone that is interested that might not have the end of the financial spectrum to have an access here and have an edge so that they can compete in Thailand. Yeah, moving on. So these are just some of the pictures of our training. So the first day would be the theoretical training, and the second day is the practical training. Moving on, we have a couple of interesting participants as well. Initially, when we first launched it, people just came across from different parts of the countries, from the deep south. They flew here just to study this with us. And what they say is that they really use this training to go back in the deep south to teach their local communities as well as future entrepreneurs in the region, because they want to set up the solar centers. And with this, what we learned is that we also try to sponsor these kind of entrepreneurs that want to set up all these solar centers to train the local communities on how to take care of the solar in hard to access area, to come to learn with us and make sure that they are able to disseminate this knowledge across the region. The goal right now is, since we only have 2 regions, we can only sponsor so much people to come here. But in the future, our aim is to set up all these 4 training centers throughout each region and make sure we can able to access all these hard underrepresented communities and make sure that they are able to grow a strong community with us. Yeah, so that would be a quick intro for us for the solar training. But in the future, once this is established, we also would love to expand to EVs as well, and make sure that this is a green skills center that lasts in the longer term. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great, thank you for sharing, Jerry. Maybe we could start with you for the questions. In terms of the different regions and how we actually expand throughout Thailand, what types of partnerships do you envision we'll be needing to do that?
Right. I think in Thailand, the market structure is definitely very different. We most of the permits as well as like the electricity, selling has to pass through a local authority such as PEA, which is like the Provincial Electricity Authority. So anyone that would like to install solar panel at their homes, or even an entrepreneurs that are entering the space, they need to work with PEA. So that's the first, almost most important partner that we have to work with. The second partners, I think, is the solar manufacturers and the financiers. So right now in this training, we work with Longji, but we also work with plan to work with other solar manufacturers as well. The third one, as mentioned, the financier, the banks. How do we make sure that the solar company that are starting with us not only get the permit, but they get the finance, and they have the professionalism to understand what the financial sector is looking into, how to do feasibilities, how to ask for loans. So I think this is the key three areas that we are working with. The financial part, I think we are working towards. We are working with some of like the banks here, though I think it needs to be more institutionalized because different banks have their own different criteria. So I think those will be the key three at the moment. And the last one, I think, is how do we expand that across the region, right? How do we make sure that the local government are involved and they are promoting this initiative and promoting solar, mobilizing the resources in their local area, so to make sure that the local area are supporting this initiative and mobilize like the financial support from the local municipalities. Yeah, that'll be it from my side.
Thank you, Jerry. So from a supply chain and also from a financing perspective,
Yes. Yes.
I also see Salini from Sansawang on the call, and I know she's a very experienced solar professional operating in the north of Thailand. So would love to have a chat with her at some point on how we grow our work up there as well. Jerry, would you like to also tell us a little bit about the e-mobility work that we're trying to get up and running in Thailand?
Oh, sure. Yes, I think in Thailand right now, what we are solar is I would say slowly and gradually growing, but what is already booming now is the EV sector, as we have around 7 or 8 Chinese brands, manufacturing centers around here, setting up the centers here. But what we find is that, well, there's a huge skill gap. Right now, we already have around 58,000 job vacancies in terms of EVs, especially on like technicians, EV technicians, and software development for EVs. What we notice is that talking to EVAT, which is like the association of EVs, EV development in Thailand, there's a huge skills gap throughout, because in Thailand there's a huge gap between university students, people taking the career path at university, and vocational school students, where there's like a 40 to 50% difference in terms of like choices. So what is really required to fill those 50,000 jobs is the vocational school training. And no one here in Thailand has the capacity or the skill set or the curriculum to make sure there's like this transfer of knowledge. So what we are trying to do right now is we are trying to work with EV companies from China that already been setting up bases here to create a curriculum with vocational schools, so that for those EV that have been sold in Thailand can be maintained, can be repaired, as well as can be monitored in terms of like those installation, charging installations as well. So we are trying to work with creating that curriculum with the EV company, working with the startup to make sure that can be scaled. So we are planning to work with the vocational education agency at vocational school to expand this and scale this curriculum. So that will be the goal. Using our base like solar trainings as like the centers, and in the future when this like curriculum is online, we would love to put that into the vocational schools as well to expand. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Just a reminder to our audience, please feel free to put your questions into the chat, and we'll make sure to have it as part of the discussion. So over to you, Patrick. Thanks for introducing the ASCENT platform. I see it's an attempt to bring all the different stakeholders of the ecosystem together. Are you seeing any specific trends or needs from a workforce development angle coming from the different members that you may have or people that are working on the platform already?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stanley, for sharing this question. So, actually, we did this survey across our different members, also including New Energy Nexus doing this study, and then put together some of the like key figures, which is worth sharing. I mean, there definitely is still a data gap about this very specific topic, but we try to like use some figures in telling what is the major trend in our region. So actually, as I mentioned before, actually the Asia Pacific region, we are one of the most severe region in terms of the contribution to climate change itself, but also like the economic loss. For example, the Asia Pacific region, we are actually contributing to half of the annual global greenhouse gas emission. So we see that like there is a very important need for our region to transition. And we can also expect that there is a major workforce transformation in this transition. And then also regarding the GDP loss is mainly about the status quo if we don't do anything. But actually, there are also some studies expecting that if we are to transform into more sustainable activities, actually 43% of the future revenues from the sustainable transformation will be supportive to Asia Pacific as well by 2030. And moreover, we also see that like there is a trend that we have 55% of our population in Asia Pacific, which are actually youth. So there is a huge potential for us to also rescale or transform the future workforce into the more sustainable ones, so that we can be like part of this adaptive population in the future climate change scenario as well. And then also we try to analyze the different countries within Asia Pacific. Of course, like Stanley was asking me about Southeast Asia. So actually we differentiate the countries into 4 archetypes about like some countries, they are emerging and also energy intensive. Some are emerging but energy scarce, and some are developed countries and energy intensive, and also developed countries which are energy efficient. And we consider that like those emerging countries and also energy intensive, they would face a more dramatic shift of workforce. For example, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And so there are also like good opportunity for these countries to do better. But also like in some of the interviews, we also found out that like even some of the countries with the JETP, for example, Indonesia, very little of those funding is dedicated towards capacity building. So yeah, because there is no mandates, they need more like funders who are interested in this people-centric agenda to transform the workforce into supporting this kind of initiative like in the future. But we also see some good examples, like for example, in Singapore, they are actually proactively mapping the like some of the top 20 green skills in its green plan 2030, which is like a proactive way into planning the green skilling for the current and future workforce, which can be even more supportive. And then we also see some other countries, like for example, Malaysia. They are like raising awareness of the wider communities, so that like with stronger awareness of the society about this future change in energy transition, they will be more prepared and more willing to transform into the greener workforce as well. So we see a strong trend and also a strong lead in our region.
Great, thank you, Patrick. Jerry, I see a question for you in the chat, but maybe I'll let you respond directly in the chat. Patrick, continuing with you, I noticed you mentioned people-centric in your presentation a few times. And I know you only had a short time to touch upon one of the groups, the workers, but maybe I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk about the other stakeholder groups now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So yeah, definitely. I don't need to elaborate more on the workers. We have been talking about this for quite a while, but also there are different types of people groups, like for example, the communities which are reliant on fossil fuel, and they are potentially also vulnerable or isolated. And so it is important to find out the ways that to support those communities into transforming, and also like to be adaptive to some of the like energy transition. Like for example, how their local communities economy can be changed as well. Like for example, into tourism or some of the creative industries, etc. That would help them adapt to this energy transition. And then for consumers and SMEs, actually, they are some of the like end users which require accessibility, affordability, and also security of energy, so they can sustain their livelihood in an easier way. So it's also important to put these people, stakeholders, at the heart of the energy transition, so that we can sustain a more stable society for all the different stakeholder groups. So in order to transform some of these like challenges into actions, it is important that we realize the limited awareness and limited understanding of the people-centric narrative now. So we need to like organize more of these like webinars or also regional or international events, so that we can clarify the narrative that we want to emphasize in people-centric energy transition, and then also raise the joint awareness of the investors, and then also drive more funding into supporting these initiatives, because yeah, we already mentioned about the huge financing gap already. And then also like with the funding and also with the stronger awareness, we also need to build the capacity of the different groups into like reskilling, green skilling, etc. Yeah, so the delivery capacity and quality enhancement is also very much needed in the future in our region.
Great, thanks, Patrick, and we would love to continue to work with you on that. Over to you, Brenda. So I know today New Energy Academy looks like a well-functioning program with a lot of participants through. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges of getting this up and running?
Sure. So in the first few years, it was a new concept, to introduce a very technical training that has a majority digital interface. So that part we really kind of had to do a lot of experiments and changes in strategies, because also the target group was not also the most tech savvy individuals. So we have a few let's say people from younger generations who are a bit more comfortable with online learning, but we also have a number of people in different cohorts that were not as comfortable with consuming content or with just doing quizzes or assessments. So there was a lot of changes and learnings in that. I think one very important thing that we realized is the importance of having a very local presence that they can refer to, so that before they pay, they can actually see on Google Maps, for example, that this training center exists. So this is not a scammy, horse where they'll just take my money and then I'll be left with nothing. So that one is a very, very interesting learning that we had, which is why increasing the number of training partners became a very critical part of the strategy. And the second thing, I'm not sure if this is a very market-specific thing that we realize, is also doing some experiments with the payment scheme. So because it's a paid course, we realized and learned that many Filipinos were not very comfortable with just giving out $120, $150 out of the pocket for an online thing. So we really had to also experiment on different ways that they're more comfortable on doing staggered payments. And this actually helped us really understand and crack the market. So I think those are two very critical things that we've learned. And, if there's other partners or organizations who are also looking into, very similar markets, we'd love to just share all these learnings about those things.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. I see Kevin from Hong Kong already shared that they're doing something similar in Hong Kong, so we'd love to have a chat later. Also, can you touch upon New Energy Nexus Philippines' other energy sector initiatives? Because solar training is only one part of what we do. Right?
Yes. So, because the Philippines is also a very nascent ecosystem or environment for energy entrepreneurs, which is also a side plug that if you want to learn more about the Philippines energy innovation ecosystem, we have an ecosystem report in the New Energy Nexus website under resources. So if you just want to learn more about that. And given how nascent it is, we have to do a lot of ecosystem building, which means we have to do a lot of accelerators and incubators for early stage entrepreneurs and startups. We also have different accelerators, for example, for rooftop solar, those who are focused on residential who wanted to enter commercial and industrial, and even small companies who actually want to become energy efficiency service providers. So this specific program or project that I'm speaking about was a USAID funded grant on helping build an incubation hub or incubation centers in different parts of the country. And then we also have, of course, pipeline building with different universities, because energy literacy is also very important and a core thing of what we're doing in ecosystem building. And it's also something that we're lacking, in the Philippines. So we also do a lot of energy literacy and skills building on that note, on that end. So pipeline building, a lot of trainings and workshops, ecosystem building, different convenings, meetups, community events, and also accelerators and incubators, all, for the benefit of early stage energy startups and enterprises.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. And I'd like to just make a last call for questions while I sum up a few of the points that we've heard today. So green workforce and jobs obviously represent a huge opportunity for the region, for Southeast Asia. About $150 billion opportunity across industries such as solar, EV, and buildings, such as what Andrew mentioned. And then Patrick shared about AVPN and the new ASCENT platform that they're launching. So it's going to be one of the great ways for projects in Southeast Asia, especially in this area, in energy transition workforce, to connect with some of the investors, the funders, and supporters of these initiatives. A lot more funding is needed, right? We need 5 times more funding than the current amounts needed for this energy transition. So there's a lot of opportunity for reskilling and really building this ecosystem together. Brenda and Jerry shared about their experience in designing and operating these energy workforce initiatives over the last few years, and building it up to pushing through a larger quantity of participants and audiences through. And thank you to Romella for sharing some of your firsthand experiences about going through one of these programs. So with that, I'd like to wrap it up and thank all of our audiences for joining us. Thank you to AVPN for joining us for this as well, and co-hosting this together. And Anne, if you could share the last slide, we have some QR codes that you can scan to follow us on LinkedIn and connect with us. We'll be doing a lot more in this space, so looking forward to having you guys participate and be part of the journey as well.